Kathyrn Wilde is the president and CEO of the Partnership for New York City. She was also on the panel that set the toll rates for congestion pricing. So anybody is talking about in New York these days is the fact that the governor called an audible at the last minute and decided to pause congestion pricing. I wondered if you were surprised at the governor's move.
I was very surprised and disappointed.
But the question then becomes, is this pause just a pause? Is congestion pricing on life support, or is it dead in the water?
I spoke to the governor yesterday. She assured me it was temporary. So I am hopeful that we'll see it come back. It's something that I've worked on for 20 years.
So do you think that this decision hurts the governor or helps the governor?
I'm not sure what the governor was trying to get out of it. She explained that she's worried about the little people who might be affected, but in fact 90% of the people who are commuting into the city to work, coming into the city, are using public transportation, and this was a way to invest in public transportation. And for those who have to drive in, or the delivery trucks, the businesses, etc., the reduction in congestion, traffic congestion, is the best thing we could do for them, because that is costing them $20 million a year in lost productivity and extra fuel costs and environmental damage, etc. So really what people across the world in cities where they have introduced congestion pricing, everybody complains before it comes in, another tax, another toll, and as soon as they see how it works and how it makes life so much more pleasant and efficient and saves money, all of a sudden everybody's for it. So we just want to get it started, let people experience it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I think it's going to be terrific.
See, but when you looked at the people who reacted after the governor made her announcement, the lawmakers who live in transit deserts were 100% behind her, saying that it was really difficult for their people because they had no transit options. So while you and I have talked about the fact that most people who come in can afford the $15 tax, they argued that they can't. So what do you do about the people in these transit deserts that have no option but to drive, and they're not making a whole lot of money?
Well, there are two things. Number one, the MTA is looking at those situations and how it can improve their transit options. They have provided for the minivans that come in addition to the MTA express buses, they've provided free exemption to the minivans that come in. And the MTA also is considering all they can do to discount fares for low-income people, for disabled people. So there are actual exemptions from the toll, and we've only got a toll one way, and if you come in like you've got a night job, it's $3.75. It's not $15. So there are all those ways. But on the other hand, any other source of financing is all going to fall on the back of New York City taxpayers and New York City business, which is already paying 44% of the cost of the MTA, or the fares. The riders are going to end up paying. Somebody's going to pay. This way, with congestion pricing, the folks who are driving in, who are mostly from Connecticut, New Jersey, upstate, those folks would have been sharing. And right now, the tolls from vehicles coming into the central business district are only 13% of the revenue. So it's all out of whack, and congestion pricing was going to help fix that.
I guess the thing I was wondering about was her argument about inflation taking a toll on people's pocketbooks, and worried about the ability of people to deal with this at a time when, as she said in her speech, everything seems to be rising, including the price of gas, the price of rent, the price of everything.
Affordability is a huge issue, and there I sympathize with the governor. She is absolutely right that the affordability is a huge issue. But the congestion toll, again, 3% of the people who work in the Manhattan business district drive to work. Those are not the poorest 3%, believe me. So I don't think this affects affordability one way or the other. I have sympathy with the Broadway theaters who have had trouble getting suburban folks to come back to the theater, but I think that's more about the illegal marijuana shops and the fear of getting, mugged, than it is about the $15 toll on top of your $300 theater ticket and your $500 dinner.
Well, let me ask you this. You have a situation where allegedly the MTA board has to approve the decision to pause congestion pricing. Given the fact that board members I've spoken to say they were blindsided and they didn't know, and she has only 6 appointees out of 23 on the board, what's the over-under on whether the board will actually go along with it, or they may decide that they don't want to do it?
I don't know what step the board is going to take. I know that just about, I think all but one of the board members voted for this just a couple of months ago. Exactly. And I was there to testify in support of it. They had an almost unanimous vote in support. And I think now they've got fiscal responsibility. The board members are in a spot where they've got a $15 billion hole in their budget without the toll revenues over the next 5 years. So I don't know what they're going to do. I feel badly for them because they're stuck with a tough problem.
But see, here's the point. If all but one person voted for this, how did they then come back months later and vote, yeah, we're going to pause it? It doesn't seem to compute to me.
I didn't know that they had to vote on a pause. I think they would, if they wanted to vote to override the pause, that would be a different question.
So nobody, this is like sort of uncharted territory.
This is totally uncharted territory, and nobody's quite sure what to do or what's legal, what isn't. It's tough, and I think that hopefully there'll be a way to resolve this. Depending on what happens in Albany, there'll be a, they have to have a conversation to resolve this. We can't leave this $15 billion hole in the MTA capital plan. Something has to happen. The MTA has contracts for construction. They've got a lot of legal liabilities. They can't just ignore it, and they've got a very tight budget.
Well, what about the idea that you do this bill that would have an IOU that would allow the MTA to bond $1 billion? Does that have any chance at all of being a reality?
Well,
it's a tough swallow.
What we want to see is congestion pricing move forward, because next year we start funding for the new 5-year capital plan. This is the current 5-year capital plan we're talking about. We're going to have a whole nother set of issues for another, I'm not sure how much it's going to be. Maybe it won't be 50 billion like this plan, but it'll probably be pretty close. And we're going to have to start this conversation again. And in the meantime, look at the federal government has spent 4 years approving our congestion pricing plan, and now it's up in the air. How are they going to feel about their funding participation for our MTA with this problem going on? So it's a big issue.
So we only have about a minute left, but there is one irony here, and that is that former Governor Cuomo, who had to leave office because of his problems, and Kathy Hochul succeeded him, came out against congestion pricing a few months ago, a bill that he actually shepherded through Congress, through the Assembly and Senate, and actually signed into law. Isn't that sort of ironic that now she's following in his footsteps?
It's confusing.
It is confusing, but at the end of the day, if I said to you, make a bet, does congestion pricing ever come into effect, what would you say?
I would say yes. I have seen this play out in other places. I think yes. I think we want to be the model for the country in terms of modern transportation. We want to match the world's greatest transportation systems, and part of that is reducing traffic.
So you're a yes. And on that note, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be right back.